on. Bobby Cox has had his contract extended, and that's only part of the developments today. Busy day, Don.
Good news for Bobby Cox, and we congratulate him. He has certainly earned that. Good news for the Braves, too. Mark Lemke is coming off the disabled list. He will start bat second. Good news for Tom Glavine. Mike Piazza will not be in the lineup. Good news for Danny Batista. He's going to get the start in right field. Braves need some good news because they need to turn around a few things that have happened in the last 8 ball games. They have had trouble winning. They've had trouble scoring runs. They've had trouble having the opposition stop scoring runs, and so the Braves could use a good outing from Glavine, a few runs to play with, and I think they need to make this a good homestand.
As we go along tonight, we're going to visit with Dodger outfielder Brett Butler, who's battling throat cancer. He's here at the ballpark tonight, so we'll talk with Brett as well. Not going on. We're going to have some fun tonight, no matter what. And back with the starting lineups, play-by-play story right after this.
Mr. Roger Cedeno in center field will bat in the second spot. Raul Mondesi will play right field. He's going to hit third. Cleanup hitter, the first baseman Eric Karros. Mike Flowers will be at third, bat fifth. Billy Ashley in left field gets the start and will bat sixth. Tom Prince tonight is going to be behind the plate. He will hit in the seventh spot. Youngster slick fielding Juan Castro will be in the eighth spot, and Ishmael Valdez will be the pitcher. He will bat ninth. For the Braves, the defense will look like this. Javi Lopez to catch. Fred McGriff at first. Mark Lemke in the lineup. Back in there after coming off the DL at second. Rafael Belliard starts in place of Jeff Blauser. We'll tell you a little bit more about Jeff a little later on. Chipper Jones at third. Danny Batista in right. Marquise Grissom in center. Ryan Klesko in left. And on the mound, making his 15th start of the year, left-hander Tom Glavine. There's a look at Tommy. He's 7-3. He has worked 90 innings. He's averaging better than 6 innings a start. The earned run average, an exceptional 2.7. It was even more sparkling than that before he ran into the buzzsaw out at Coors Field in Colorado last outing. A lot of people think his best pitching may have come after the first inning there. Here's what he's done against the Dodgers. In 2 games this year, the record 0-1, but look below that at some of the other numbers. An earned run average of under 1, 15 strikeouts, and 1 run per ball game. So Glavine has done a good job. The offense hasn't been there for him. As I was saying, some people think that after he gave up the 7 runs in Colorado, it had been very easy to cash your chips in and take it to the house. There's what happened to him. He gave up 9 runs and 12 hits. 7 of those came in the first inning. He kept the Braves in the ball game, gave them a chance to battle back, tie it, go ahead, but they just couldn't hang on to win it. So that's some clutch pitching, and anybody can pitch with a big lead, and anybody can pitch with runs to play with, but after getting banged around early on, your real character starts to show then. Here are the umpires for game 1 of the series. Terry Tato will be ringing up the balls and strikes. Rookie Bruce Dreckman will be at first, Mark Barron at second, and Jerry Davis will be at third. And Skip, I am utterly amazed seeing the pictures that we were looking at in the open there. And I know the field drain wells, and I know Ed Mangan and the crew have done it, but I am utterly amazed to see it look like it's been dry all day.
Yeah, it looked like the middle of December, that shot we showed from earlier this afternoon. Delano DeShields leads it off. He hasn't had much luck against Tom Glavine. 8 out of 46 against him. Dodgers are 3 games over. As a team, they're not hitting much at all. In their lineup tonight, the highest average, 2 guys at 259. Terry Tato calls a strike, and we're underway. First game of a 4-game series. 78 degrees at game time. The rain really cooled things off. It's upstairs. 1-1 the count. Glavine 11-12 lifetime against the Dodgers. 0-1 this year. He was outdueled by Hideo Nomo early in the year out there. Great pitching duel. Nomo got the best of him, but he acquitted himself beautifully. Strike over the outside corner.
A lot of managers have wanted to stack left-handers in the lineup against Tom Glavine. He's dropped their batting average against him maybe about 40 points. They were hitting over 300 for the last 3 years. This year down about 260. So he's made an adjustment with a pitch for lefties.
Over the outside corner, DeShields takes a hike, 1 down.
And here is one of those pitches. He's gone to the changeup to lefties, and he's also got a little bit better break, a little bit tighter break on his curveball. Watch it catch the outer edge, or in the neighborhood.
RoboCam strikes again. Here's Roger Cedeno. He has taken Brett Butler's place in the outfield. He's at 259 with 9 runs driven in. The loss of Butler damaging in all respects, of course. This kid is the center fielder of the future of the Dodgers, if everything goes according to plan. But the lack of speed in their lineup with Brett out of there is really interesting. DeShields has stolen 20 bases. Nobody else has stolen more than 5. And in their lineup tonight, Karras is 1 out of 1. Blowers, Ashley, Prince, and Castro haven't even tried to steal a base.
Cedeno being in the lineup allowed my former manager a good line this past week. He played him a couple days and set him down, and somebody said, "I thought you said he was your center fielder of the future." He said, "I did say. I just didn't say he was my center fielder of today."
Just missed outside. 3-1 the count. Giants outlasted Houston today, 12-8. Florida failed to score in the first at Pittsburgh. He had a good cut there, but he fouled it back. Full count on the Dodgers center fielder. Mondesi waits to hit next. He's swinging the bat better after a slow start. At the knees, inside corner. Cedeno didn't think so. 2 out. That might be that just below the knees strike.
With Glavine, you almost have to look change up. That's what the scouting report says. A little cutter there. And I think the way Javi Lopez catches this makes it look like a worse pitch than it really is. See him catch it going toward the left-handed hitter. If he had caught that maybe with the glove turned over, it would have looked like a better strike. Did look like he caught the corner.
Mondesi hitting .259, 13 homers, 39 runs driven in. Tough night for the Braves last night. Not only did they lose a tough ball game, but they got fogged in New York. Nobody got home till 4:30, 5 o'clock this morning. Bill Acree had to do some yeoman-like work last night, I guess, huh?
Got to tell you how cool he was under fire, too. But then again, there's nothing else you can do, because if you lose your cool, then everybody else around you is going to start getting whacked out. But he just kind of kept his phone close by and maintained his cool and got everybody home safely. That's all he could do.
2-0 pitch. Strike called outside corner, 2-1. He's an unsung hero of this club. Two balls and a strike. The right-hand hitter waits. Ground ball to second. There's a familiar figure. Mark Lemke throws him out. The inning is quickly over. No first inning blues for Glavine tonight. Bottom of the first, no score. And 1 against Atlanta and deals a strike. 0-1. Prince behind the plate. Oh, this conference, not the musical part.
This one doesn't have quite as good a footwork.
0-2 the count. Valdez 2-1 against Atlanta last year in his rookie season. That ball sharply hit the foul. Still 0-2. 35,000 or thereabouts on hand.
Valdez gets lost in the PR shuffle out there. Ramon Martinez, because he's been around a long time. Hideo Nomo, obviously the most talked about, but if you ask most scouts, he's the guy they would grab right away. He's been in the 6th inning every start for the Dodgers this year.
Yeah, he's a very aggressive pitcher. Goes right after you. 1-2 the count. Line foul the other way again. Grissom, Lemke, and Jones, the first 3 for Atlanta. Well, we do a radio show with Bobby before every game. Have to do it around 4:30. High chop off the plate. That's going to be trouble. Blowers in, just takes a big bite out of it. He's got no play. Infield hit. And at that time, the field was in deplorable shape. Bobby said he wasn't going to make a decision on Lemke until tomorrow. So it's pretty obvious that Mark did a selling job here.
He tried to do that in New York, too, but they chained him to the bench and wouldn't let him go out there, and I think that was a good idea. Remember how slick the field was in some of the games in New York? Just a good idea to wait till you get on a little bit surer track.
So the Lemmer stands in there, takes a look at Jimmy Williams, his third base coach. So much going on. I don't know if we even mentioned Jeff Blauser's not playing. He stepped in a hole in Colorado running a ball out, and the ankle hasn't responded, so they give him a night off.
We mentioned that we would cover that subject later, and you did.
Now we have. Don Sutton, Skip Carey, both here bringing you Braves baseball. Fastball outside. Lemke again studies his third base coach. That let up was telegraphed and was nowhere near the strike zone. Lemke 1 out of 7 against this guy in his career. No score, bottom of the first. Chipper Jones waits on deck. Right in there. 2-1.
You see Mark hit and run a little bit more against lefties when he's batting right-handed. Not as often do you see a left-handed hitter play the hit and run. Bobby Cox might do it, get a little something going early in the ballgame.
Might have been a little rust showing there. He swung late and missed it. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Valdez is not a guy who's in a real hurry when he's out there on the mound. Just missed low and away. He's running full 3-2. Let's see if Grissom takes off with nobody out. He's running. It's fouled away, out of play. Still 3-2.
And everybody has the medical reports and the scouting reports and the injured list. They know who's coming off the disabled list. The Dodgers know that Lemke is probably not going to have the strength that he had before. He's probably not going to be pulling. So you're going to see DeShields covering. That means that Castro will be at home. And if Lemke is unable to pull the ball, they have a much better chance of making a play.
Marquise back easily. Three balls, 2 strikes. He's running. Ground ball headed for right field. Right through where Don said. First and third. Nobody out. Well, they thought he couldn't pull, and they were wrong. Nice going, partner.
Well, thank you, sir. He got a pitch. Valdez helped a little by giving him a pitch. Well, he helped a lot. He got a pitch down in the strike zone. It's easier to pull a pitch down than it is one up. See, that is right down. If that ball's up letter high, Mark is not going to be able to pull it. And he sees DeShields on the move. That's as good as you could execute a hit and run.
We haven't hit the ball hard yet, but we've got him on the corners with nobody out. That's all that's important. And now Jones, McGriff, and Klesko will have a chance to do some damage. Chipper 2 out of 13 against Valdez in his career. Inside, 1 ball, no strikes. Dodgers are 5-5 in their last 10 games. So are the Braves. Up the middle, base hit. Lemke around second, changes his mind and hustles back. RBI single for Jones, another ground ball, but they're finding holes tonight in the Braves lead. 1-0 and have a chance to get some more.
This is a lot of the stuff that's gone against the Braves, especially on the road trip, especially against Greg Maddux. Choppers like this, a little bit of a miscommunication right there. It looked like that DeShields broke a little bit late. And some pretty alert base running by Mark Lemke. You have a good inning going. You got one run in. You don't want to make that first or last out at third.
Dave Wallace, the pitching coach, comes to the mound. He leads the league, I think, in visits to the mound. And it's understandable because he's got people from all over the place. He's got one starter from Korea, one from Japan, one from Mexico, a couple from the Dominican.
And it wasn't that Ishmael Valdez had onions for lunch. It's just that a lot of times they're afraid, especially with television and close-ups, that somebody's going to read your lips and maybe pick up what you're saying or be able to pick up a pitch you're going to throw. That's why you see a lot of conversations behind the open glove.
McGriff, 2 out of 12 against Valdez. One of them a homer. Good play by Prince to block that ball. 1 ball, no strikes. Looked like he overthrew it. If you haven't been noticing, guess who the hottest team is in the National League? The Pittsburgh Pirates have won 9 out of 10, and they're just 2 games out in that Central Division. What a story that would be. The runners lead, the stretch and the pitch. Curveball snapped in there. Nice pitch. 1-1 the count. Lemke at second, Jones at first. Nobody out. A run is in. Chipper drove in his 44th run of the year. Valdez again starts his motion, then stops. He hasn't gotten an out yet. 3 straight ground ball singles.
It hasn't made a bad pitch yet.
And he's ahead of McGriff. It's 1-2. Got a chance to really do some damage to this guy in the first inning. You let him slip away, you don't know what might happen later because he's a fine pitcher. 1-2 the count. Boy, that didn't miss by much. He had him fooled. A fastball down and in. Had him well set up, but missed with the pitch, and it's 2-2. Dodgers here over the weekend. Smoltz, Anastasio tomorrow night. Then Saturday it'll be a network game. Fox will be in here with all their bells and whistles. Avery against Nomo in that one. We'll be back with you, Schmidt and Candiati on Sunday. The stretch. 2-2. Drilled into left field. Ashley going back, though. He's there. He reaches up, makes the catch. Lemke tags and races to third. That's the first ball hit hard, and it's the first out. Good job by Lemke to get to third base. Good job by Ashley to catch the ball. Here's Ryan Klesko.
Lemke sees the ball hit hard, but once he sees it's going to be caught, there's no reason for him to be halfway. Whoop. Goes back to tag up and does a double duty tag.
Looks like there's a banana peel on that base. Here's Ryan Klesko.
If there's a chance you think the ball's not going to be caught, then you go halfway, and then you can score easily. But that one, it was easily to figure out he was going to get it.
Ryan 0 for New York, 0 for 13.
And they pitched him in a way that we haven't seen that much. They just stayed hard stuff away from him. It would come in just on a showcase pitch, and I don't remember him getting a breaking ball in the middle of the strike zone. But hard away, in on the fist, and back outside, and then every now and then a change out of the strike zone.
2 balls and a strike, the count. The stretch. Curve misses. 3-1. Javi Lopez on deck. Plesko 3 out of 9 against Valdez, a home run included. Lopez 2 out of 8, a home run included. Let's see what happens on this 3-1 pitch. It could be a big pitch in the game. Double play ball. 4, 6. Inning over. That hurt. Ahead in the count. Plesko hits into a double play, and the Braves, out of all that, get just 1 run. They get it on 3 hits, and they leave 1. At the end of an inning, 1-0 Atlanta. In the dugout now is Brett Butler, the Dodgers center fielder, former Brave. How you feeling, buddy?
Skip, I'm feeling a lot better. I've got my weight back on about 159, 160 pounds. I'm 2 or 3 pounds off, but my throat feels better, and I'm a little stiff in the neck from the surgery, but other than that, I'm ready to go.
First pitch to Karras is a strike, and the second inning is underway. Well, it was a shocking thing for all of us, but more so for you and your family. And just reading the papers, you've handled it like the thoroughbreds that you are.
Well, I tell you what, my wife's been the rock through this whole thing, more so than me.
Tell us about that hat. That's terrific. Where'd you get that?
Well, basically what it was is I walked in today and it was a surprise. Dave, our clubhouse guy, everybody in the place was wearing it. It says Bugsy on it. It's got Brett Butler 22, and everybody was wearing it for BP, and it was just kind of a nice gesture on my behalf.
Well, I know they miss you, and we miss you too. What happens now? Radiation starts when, next week?
I'm starting Monday. I went 4 weeks because my throat was bothering me, so I'm going to go 6 weeks of radiation, and then after that I'm going to go 3 weeks down in Mexico at a place called American Biologics and try to build my immune system up and go back, and then I'll have about 5 weeks from there to try to get back, and that's my goal, to try to get back and play this year.
Well, that would be great, but don't rush it, okay? Get yourself well.
Well, I understand that, and all the other guys, we've talked about it. It's first to get my health and be able to live a long life is the best that I possibly can, but if I can get back, I'd love to do that.
It must be heartwarming. I know that so many people have written and called and sent flowers and cards. It's got to be a great feeling.
Skip, it was overwhelming. I mean, not only Atlanta and LA, but everybody throughout the nation. I could not believe the love and the affection that was poured out towards me, and it's something I'll never forget.
Well, we don't want to keep you up here because I know you get tired easy and you've got a tough road in front of you, but I know of your great faith, and you're a tough little guy, always have been, and you've always taken care of yourself, and you got everything going for you.
Well, you know, you've always had a special place in my heart. We go back a long time, and I appreciate you having me, and it's nice to be back here.
Okay, buddy.
We'll be thinking about you, and we'll be looking forward to probably having to try to get you out in October.
Well, either that or, guys, I'm going to come up here and try to get a job if you don't mind.
Uh-oh.
No, I'm kidding.
You got Sutton nervous now.
See you later. Thanks.
Get well, Brett. Thank you. That's Brett Butler, ladies and gentlemen. 0-2 the count. Mike Flowers is the batter. He fouls it off his thumbs. He got off to a dreadful start. He's doing a little better. Up to 240, 4 homers, 25 runs batted in. Oh, and 2 the count. Another called out on strikes. 5 men have batted in this game. 4 of them have been called out on strikes. Here's Billy Ashley.
He's become one of those 10 commandment hitters. Thou shalt not swing. And Glavine is putting some balls right in some perfect spots. No argument here. This is almost like an afterthought. The curveball, Javi Lopez catches it, and he goes, I guess that's strike 3.
Yeah, Blowers knew it. He just turned and headed west.
Glavine hasn't thrown a pitch in the center of the strike zone yet.
Low and away, 1-0. Billy Ashley is the batter. He's hitting just .217, but he's had good luck against Tom. 3 out of 7 against him. This guy Ashley puts up great AAA numbers, but has yet not been able to get it done consistently at the major league level.
A lot of the hits he's gotten off Tom Glavine have come on change-ups and on off-speed pitches. He is a good off-speed hitter. You can power him above the belt, inside. Good low fastball hitter. Likes to extend the arms, as do most power hitters.
He's a great big guy, 6'7". And if he hits it a long way. Gets that ball off the end of the bat, fouled on the right side.
See how he's stepping in and he's approaching Tom Glavine almost as though he is saying, I don't think you're going to throw me a fastball for a strike, so I'm going to look for the changeup. What Glavine has done a lot as he's matured in his career is when he sees that, nail the inside corner with a fastball or something in on the hands.
Just missed inside. Full count, 3-2. Of course, if it's a full count, it would almost have to be 3-2.
A lot of times.
Don and Skip here with you in the second inning. Just missed outside. So Ashley coaxes a pass.
That's an at-bat that would have had Ashley hanging a U-turn last year. They wanted him to become more and more disciplined, and that at-bat right there shows that if the process may not be complete, but at least he is taking steps in that direction.
Tom Prince stands in. Veteran journeyman catcher. A little bit outside, 1 ball, no strikes. Prince hitting at .211 on the year. Check, swing, strike. It's 1-1. Runner at first, 2 down. Without Brett, boy, they have no speed at all except DeShields.
And DeShields is a guy with speed, but normally his ratio is not a real good one.
That's in there as well, 1-2. Butler was 7 out of 8 in stolen bases and 117 at bats. So he'd be up there around 20 by now in a normal year. Well hit on a 1-2 pitch. So trouble greets Glavine with 2 out in the second. Ashley a walk. He's hitting .217. Prince a single hitting .211. Here's Juan Castro, the shortstop.
Wants to come inside. I had said earlier that every pitch he tried to throw in there, he had hit the corner. That's the first one Glavine has left in the middle of the strike zone.
Castro hitting .213. Greg Gagne has a sprained ankle, is on the disabled list, and this kid's getting a chance to play.
Remember, we saw him a few times this spring, and he did a good job for them in spring training. Got off to a great start at Albuquerque, hitting about .375 in the Coast League.
He's 2 out of Mexico, hit .267 last year at Albuquerque. Mike Brito signed him. Long-time Dodger scout. 1 ball, no strikes. 2 on, 2 out. Tommy falls behind 2-0. He was rolling right along, but all of a sudden he's hit a bump in the road.
And it all boils down to missing with the first pitch, because if he throws that first pitch for a strike, then the pitches that he is throwing on the second pitch right now, he could throw them in the same spots and have them chased. He is missing by mere inches.
Foul tip back off the glove of Lopez. 2 balls and a strike. This is the start of a long homestand, a chance for the Braves to make some hay. The Dodgers are followed by the Padres, then by the Giants, then by the Cardinals before we go away again. And we're just 2 road trips away now from the monster. Should be out of the inning. Short hop. Belliard flips it to Lemke, and the inning is over. 1 hit, no runs, no errors, 2 left, bottom of the second. Braves lead at 1-0.
Broadcasting rights granted by the Atlanta National League Baseball Club and is intended solely for the entertainment of our audience. Any publication, rebroadcast, retransmission of the pictures or descriptions of this game without the express written consent of the Atlanta National League Baseball Club is prohibited.
That's the best I've ever heard. I lied. Javi Lopez leads off the bottom of the second. And fouls one away. It's 0-1. 1-0 Atlanta, our score. Boy, the Olympic road trip. That's going to be, there'll be some stories to tell when that one's over. 0-2 the count.
Javi was only 2 out of 9 in the Met series, and they pitched him better than any team we have seen all year long.
Up and in, a ball and 2 strikes.
A lot of pitches right there. What teams will do with Javi is throw that pitch to set up the breaking ball, then throw him a breaking ball for a strike, and he just rakes it.
Blowers to his left, who can't field it cleanly, throws late. See how they score it. And the decision is an E5.
He had that in his glove and then just slung it out, and Javi runs well, but with better than average catcher speed. Still, if he turns and he doesn't fling it out of his glove, he throws him out.
Danny Bautista gets his first Atlanta start. The former Tiger performer stands in there. The Braves have had their leadoff man on in both innings. Look out. Chin music. As they say, 1 ball, no strikes. American League, Texas leads Boston 1-0 after 3.5. Bottom of the second, Cleveland, New York, scoreless. By the way, Albert Bell had his meeting with the American League president today, and a decision will be rendered tomorrow. That didn't miss by much. 2-0. Renner at first, nobody out. Good play. Should be 2 out there. Out there, 1-6-3, second double play the Braves have hit into. That might get through if Valdez doesn't make a good fielding play.
And if he doesn't make a good throw to second. Ran the fastball in on his fist. Jammer goes up the ladder. He turns, waits for the shortstop to get near the bag, and then gives him a chest-high throw. And he got it to Castro in time so that he could make the decision to jump over the runner, to back up, to step to the side. If you stand there and pop your glove a couple of times and then throw, you'll get some shortstop knocked in the left field. But that's perfect.
Rafael Belliard asks for and gets time just before the pitch is made. Oh, and 1 the count.
I was watching, just looking up some numbers on Valdez, and when I came to his age, it is amazing to me that he's only 22 years old, and the way that he pitches. And the second part of that is a guy that age, you don't normally see him have as good a command and as good a presence. Valdez's control has been exceptional. He just doesn't walk many people. Look at that. Only once has he walked 3.
That reminds me, I hear rumors that you're going to go over and run the Reds for the next couple of years. Is that true?
Well, it wasn't supposed to leak out. Still, it was all cleared. We're still working on whether or not I have to carry a beeper and if I can use the cellular from the golf course.
The 2-1 popped up. The wind doesn't get to it, and it's going to be caught by the first baseman, and the inning is over. Just missed that one. No hits, no runs, an error, nobody left. 2 innings have gone by. 1-0 Atlanta. Years. That was an indication that the Olympic Games are coming to Atlanta this spring. That's the new stadium we've built here for the Olympic Games. We in Atlanta. Just thought you'd want to know. This is the stadium in which we now play baseball. But next year we're going to play baseball in the stadium where they're going to have the Olympics this year. It's all very confusing, but stick with us. Ismael Valdez leads it off. He's hitting .083 for the year. Pop foul back and out of play. 0-1. 1-0 Atlanta. Our score. Chipper Jones has the RBI. Oh, 2, same spot. Just about. He skies it into short right. McGriff puts it away. 1 down. Valdez pops out. 1 down. Delano DeShields the batter. He was called out on strikes his first time. Mr. Sutton.
Yes, sir.
Last night at Jacobs Field, Mark McGwire hit 2 home runs in a game for the 32nd time in his career. You know who the leader is all time?
Hank Aaron.
That's what I would have guessed too, but wrong. The other guess you would have made.
Mickey Mantle.
No, but you got the right team.
Babe Ruth.
There you go. Yeah, Ruth 72 times. I'm not trying to show off my baseball knowledge. I'm reading it off sheet here. Willie Mays 63, Aaron 62, Jimmy Fox 55, Frank Robinson 54. The leaders in that department. Some pretty good ball players.
Just think how many more Babe Ruth would have had it. I could have faced him.
Good point. A ball and a strike to count. Over the outside corner, DeShields down in the count. 1-2. He came in hitting at .244.
Second consecutive at bat where it's almost like he's standing up there not being able to believe that Glavine can throw him an outside strike. And he's thrown him 5 of them.
Took a shot out there again, but missed. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Fought that one off. Lines it into the seats. Still 2-2.
That's a pitch he got him on last time, and if you get him to swing at that, then it can start a fastball out, tail it back a little bit. A lot of times the hitter will think, well, that's going to break off the plate.
The Lemmer has it. 2 out.
You had a chance to see right there, Skip, but one big difference in Tom Glavine's pitching, and I don't know that the Greg Maddux influence is solely responsible for it, but Tom used to never throw changeups to left-handers. Maddux will throw it to righties, he'll throw it to lefties, he doesn't matter. And more, Glavine is finding out he gets a lot of outs on left-handers with his changeup.
Roger Cedeno, the banner. Into right center field. Pretty well hit. Bautista gets there, makes the play. Good jump. The inning is quickly over 1, then 2, then 3. We go to the bottom of the 3rd. 1-0 Atlanta.
For my favorite part of the show, a look at our Rogaine leaderboard. Our category, National League team ERA. The Dodgers on top, just a hair under 3. The Braves in 2nd place. Might surprise a lot of you that San Diego is there, but they have some good young pitching. That's the Rogaine leaderboard.
Right you are, Don Sutton. And here's the pitch to Glavine. Ran up the bunt. Worked so well the other night in New York. 1 ball, no strikes. The 1-0 pitch. Lined right at the shortstop. Short hop. Throw to first. High, but in time. 1 down. Good play by Castro. 1 out. Marquise Grissom, the batter. Grissom singled and scored the Atlanta run his first out. Blood up, sweeps outside, 1 ball, no strikes. Don Sutton, Skip Carey in attendance here at the ballpark with the Braves on top, 1-0. To short. 2 down. By the way, no pitcher in baseball is hotter than John Smoltz. Read all about it in the June Chop Talk. Call 1-800-700-CHOP. Subscribe to the official monthly magazine of the world champion Braves. Here's Mark Lemke.
And he'll be trying to regain the stroke that he had, and starting with a single tonight will help that he was having when he went on a disable list. Mark was hitting over 350 in the month of May, and it pushed his batting average almost to the 300 mark.
Upstairs, 1 ball, no strikes. In the other baseball, Giants held off Houston this afternoon. Well hit right field. Did he get enough of it? That ball is gone. How about that? I hadn't batted in 2 weeks. Home run number 4, RBI number 17, 2-0 Atlanta.
And so much for he won't be able to pull it. His wrist is probably not 100% yet. See where the pitch is. They want to go away, down and in. Almost the identical pitch that he got the base hit on the hit and run.
Here's Chipper. Would like to do the same. Takes a strike, 0-1. Popped up. Who wants it? Short center field. Castro calls everybody off. Now Ashley calls him off. Makes the catch, and the inning is over. But the Braves pick up another run on the home run from Lemke. No errors and nobody left. At the end of 3 innings, your score: Atlanta 2, Los Angeles 0.
And 1. 1 ball, 1 strike.
They're going to send us to dinner? Whoa. Blue Nose Beer Chili is it? Blue Nose.
Close enough. Sounds like one of them.
Oh, it's a theme deal because Animal House is the movie tomorrow.
And Pittsburgh and Florida are tied.
Pirates won 9 out of 10.
Making a move in the Central.
Right you are, Don Sutton.
Glavine just misses. 2 balls, 2 strikes.
There's some American League scores for you. Albert Bell's playing tonight. May not be tomorrow. Just told you about the home run off Mercury.
And a 2-2 pitch. Down low, full count, 3-2. Karras at 242, 11 homers, 53 hits, 33 RBIs. 8 out of 26 against Tom Glavine. He is one strong young man. Fights off the fastball, still 3-2. He'll turn 29 in November. Born in New Jersey, but he ended up matriculating at UCLA. On the ground, Belliard is there. Over the top, and he gets him by a step. Belliard has an amazing knack. I don't care where the ball's hit. He's always headed toward the middle of the diamond when he picks it up. Circles it, gets his weight going right toward the bag, and 2 gone.
I think I can only remember one bad throw in his ever since he's been in Atlanta, and that was on that wet track in Miami.
That's right. 2 outs for Mike Blowers. He struck out looking. Glavine has now set down 6 in a row since the single by Prince. A little bit too much time. Blowers asks for and receives time. He's at 239. That may be the highest that number ever hit. ball one is low. They got him from Seattle just before December last year in a deal that sent a couple of minor leaguers, Miguel Cairo and Willis Antañez, a couple of infielders. 2-0. Started his career with the Expos. Squirts that one away. It's 2-1. He was a guy that must have really been popular. The clubs thought a lot of him because he was drafted by Seattle, drafted by San Francisco, drafted by Baltimore. Back when they had the first phase of the draft, and then they'd have a secondary phase. He was drafted by Montreal, eventually signed, and then traded to Montreal in a deal that sent John Candelaria to Montreal back in the late 80s. Another chance for Belliard. Another good throw from Belliard. And a 1-2-3 inning for Tom Glavine. We move to the bottom of the fourth. The Braves have two. The Dodgers are getting shut out.
Last Dodger to lead the league in ERA. I said Earl Hershiser. I was, of course, wrong. The answer is Alejandro Pena back in 1984. Hershiser never led it after that?
Nope.
Well, I'll be darned.
Dipped, and here's Fred McGriff. McGriff, Klesko, and Lopez. First pitch swinging. Karros has got it. Is his pitcher there? Yes. Throw a little behind him. But one pitch, one out. That's 3-1 in your scorebook if you're keeping score.
Good point, Tom.
One out for Ryan Klesko. Klesko hit the ball sharply his first time up, but right at the second baseman, Delino DeShields, who promptly turned a 4-6-3 double play. Klesko with 20 home runs. Good power numbers this year. This time he gets a little looper to left. And that's what you do if they keep pitching you out there. You can't hit a home run every time, although he's hitting them about as frequently as anybody around. But if you can't hit a homer every time, take some shots to left.
He had been retired 14 times in succession until that base knock.
And he stands at first with one gone for Javi Lopez. Lopez grounded to third, play that Mike Blauer's unable to come up with, charged with an error. Breaking ball drops in for strike one. Remember, Blauers was having trouble offensively and defensively earlier. 1-1. So many errors that is. That's only 6 errors, though.
I think Gagne was the one having the defensive trouble.
That's right.
In
He's up to
Chicago
7.
when it was 24 degrees and they were trying to play this game.
That's when they were wearing the mask and the ski hats and everything else to play.
I wonder who will take over that Cincinnati team after the 60-day period.
Well, a couple of names have been mentioned, but both have denied any knowledge of it. Richard Brown, who was president of the Angels until the Disney purge.
And Mark Sauer, who used to run the Pirates.
Out of the Pirates, that's right. Inside corner, 1-2. Braves with a single run in the first, another one in the bottom of the third. They have out-hit the Dodgers 5-1. There goes the runner. Hit and run. Castro stays at home. Klesko's going to try it. Ill-advised. A weird double play. And Klesko thrown out at third. So the Braves play hit and run. It took a little while for it to materialize. But an unusual double play. Here's what it looked like. The end of 4. 2-0 Braves. For Castro, he started 17 out of the last 18 games at shortstop. And coming into tonight, excuse me, he's gone 30 at bats without striking out, so he's definitely a contact hitter. One ball, two strikes, one out, runner at second. 2-0 Braves. Castro only struck out 42 times last year in 380 at bats. Lays off a tough one there, and it's 2-2. Two years ago at Double-A, he struck out 66 times in 480 at bats, so he is a tough little guy to get out, tough little guy to strike out. But not this time. 3 in a row from Glavine in almost the same spot. One of them does the trick. Glavine has 6 strikeouts, all called.
Another look. Boy, what you talk about hitting the target. Javi didn't have to move that glove one iota.
Easy to call when you stick it in the center of the mid. 2 gone, and it's a pitcher, Valdez. He popped the first his last time up. 3 straight fastballs up from Glavine. He was late on all 3. Again, he starts him with the fastball, but it goes outside, and it's 1-0.
Looks like Diamond Lil's here at the ballpark tonight.
1 ball, 1 strike. A lot of ex-players represented here tonight. That's in the air. Shallow right field. Long run for Batista in the foul territory. The right fielder tracks it down. Glavine gives up the double to Prince, leaves him standing at second. We have completed half of this. 4.5 in the books. 2-0 Braves.
Bullpen after Ramon Martinez got back in the swing of things in the rotation for the Dodgers. Hit hard and past Blowers. Danny Batista leads off the 5th for Atlanta with a solid single to left.
With a situation like the Braves have with David Justice out, Bobby Cox not giving the position to one guy, and you're going to see a lot of different combinations in that outfield. You're going to see Bautista playing some right field. You're going to see Jermaine Dye out there at times. Dwight Smith, Jerome Walton when he comes back. Bobby likes to get hitters a few at bats so they're not just sitting and pinch hitting twice a week.
And the guy that figures to maybe get a few more at bats than the other 2 guys would be Dwight Smith, since he's the only lefty in that mix. Belliard up there popped out to Karros his first time up. Close play at first. Valdez has a good move. Likes to throw to first, but he's committed 3 balks this year. He's very quick over there, but sometimes doesn't get turned all the way before he lets it go.
Very sneaky. Just lets his hands meet at the belt. When Lou Brock was stealing all those bases in the National League, he used to say that was the toughest kind of pitcher to read from first base because you couldn't see anything.
And you can't get a rhythm on a timing. If you're trying to get a good jump on a guy and he's just bringing his hands together, you're never quite sure when he's finally got them together and comes to a pause. Foul past Jimmy Williams. There were some guys, and it seems to me Roger Clemens was one of these guys that when he got his sign from the stretch, he had both hands in front of him with his hands barely separated, and then would just put his hands together.
That's when they changed the rule.
They did change the rule where you did have to have them separated enough where the base runner could see at least one of your hands. Rafi with a good bunt. Tough play for Blowers. He'll have to stick it in his pocket. Outstanding bunt by Rafael Belliard. That brings up another good bunter, Tom Glavine, who can help himself if he can move the runners along.
In fact, Glavine's such a good hitter that it would not have at all been surprising to see Belliard bunting on the first pitch just to try to move the runner along. But by swinging on the first pitch and fouling it off, he had Blowers playing deep at third. By the time he came and picked that ball up, he had no chance for a play anywhere. Bunt single for Belliard.
And that's the way to do it. You push it or pull it down, rather down the third base line. You either want it to be a base hit or foul. Glavine had a pinch hit appearance in New York in the extra inning game and put down a good sacrifice bunt. In fact, it turned out to be a base hit for him. He pushes it down the third base line. It stays fair, and Valdez has to hurry to make the play. That was a beautiful bunt, and that's what you want to do with runners at first and second. You want to push it to third and hopefully make the third baseman have to charge and field the ball, but this worked effectively too.
How close to the foul line was this ball when Valdez picked it up? It must not have had any spin to it, because, well, it did have some spin to it. Looked like that ball might have rolled foul had he let it go.
Prince stood there for just a second, like he maybe would have called it for Valdez to let it go.
But not wanting to take a chance, Valdez went ahead and got the out.
There will be a sacrifice. Put out goes 1-4. And Marquise Grissom with a chance to drive in a run or two. He has singled, scored a run, and grounded a short. Big curve, a little bit high. 2-0. This kid Valdez, Pete, pitches beyond his years. He's only 22, but pitches like a seasoned veteran. He's got a good breaking ball, excellent fastball, and his delivery, I think, very difficult for the hitters.
Good assortment of pitches, too, for a young pitcher. Many times you won't see a young pitcher such as Valdez have such good command with off-speed pitches.
2-1 pitch. 3-1. Everybody playing back on the infield for the Dodgers except for Eric Karros, and now he backs up a step. Good pitch. 3-1. Fouled it off. Full count. Marquise is averaging .284. He had a good series against the New York Mets. Went 5 for 15 with a double. Had a good road trip. Full count. First base open. Let's see how Valdez plays this. With Mark Lemke due up next. Breaking ball, and he walked him. Bases loaded for Mark Lemke, who has returned to the lineup in grand fashion. That's the first walk of the night for Valdez. And Mark Lemke up there with the sacks loaded. He singled in the first inning on a great hit and run play, pulled it through the hole on the right side, and then homered in the third.
He had been so antsy the last 3 or 4 days to get back in the lineup, but the Braves wanted to make sure he wasn't going to go out there and re-injure that hand again. They wanted to give him a full workout even before the game tonight. Bobby Cox was saying he probably wouldn't be activated until tomorrow, but then because of the Blauser injury, they went ahead and made the move anyway.
And he's got a chance to pad the lead. It's 2-0. Goes after the first pitch and slices it foul, but I don't think anybody's going to reach that one. It's just a strike, 0-1. A lot of guys trying to fill the void when Mark Lemke went on the DL.
Yeah, similar situation to the threesome and the fourth player with Jerome Walton that'll be out there in Justice's absence. Mordecai, Graffinino, Giovanola, and Belliard all got some playing time at second, but nobody matching the numbers that Mark Lemke has put up this year.
Yeah, and what hurt, he was hot too when,
yes, he was.
He went on the disabled list.
.359 over his last 10 games prior to getting hurt.
The 0-1 pitch. He reached for that one. Now he's in the hole 0-2. Joey Eishen loosening up in the Dodgers bullpen. Heard a rumor or read about a rumor he was going somewhere in a deal, wasn't he? Wasn't there a ball club trying to make a deal for him? Can't remember where I read that. But he's still got the Dodger blue on tonight. The 0-2 to Lemke. Hit hard on the ground off the glove of Karros, but the Shields is there. Waits for Karros to get back to the bag. They get Lemke, but they avoid a double play, and Lemke's got an RBI, and it's 3-0. Big break for Atlanta there.
Lemke having himself quite a night. A single, a home run, now his second RBI of the night, and a little ricochet job here off the glove of Karros. The Shields gets to it. Karros back to the bag at first. It goes 3-4-3 in the scorebook. And RBI number 18 of the year for Lemke.
Second and third for Chipper Jones. He's 1 for 2 tonight. Ooh, curveball. He just missed. Like he stayed back pretty well on that pitch, but missed it 0-1. But that's just one of the assortment for Valdez that makes him a tough pitcher. Oh, and 2. He had a good start his last outing against the Reds, but got beat 2-1. His luck a little bit like that of Greg Maddux of late.
And what's so mystifying to the Dodgers, they weren't hitting early in the year, basically because both Eric Karros and Raul Mondesi were in deep slumps, and Mike Piazza was hitting with no power.
Right.
All of a sudden, Piazza's power returned. Karros and Mondesi got hot, and they still aren't scoring any runs.
The 0-2 to Chipper. Breaking ball inside. Well, let's face it, Pete. You look at this lineup right now. Without Brett Butler at the top of the lineup or Piazza tonight in the middle of the lineup, it gives them a completely different look. Not nearly as formidable. And, of course, great to see Brett at the ballpark, and nice of him to stop by in the booth earlier. 1-2 pitch down the line. Hit foul. That would have scored a couple. Chipper hitting .317. 44 RBIs. Good fastball inside. Looked like that ball came back a little bit. Chipper didn't like it. But Terry Tate has been very consistent on the corners tonight. Braves get one. They add to their lead. We go to the 6th. 3-0 Atlanta.
First inning, a solo homer, and later another RBI from Mark Lemke.
And for the Dodgers in the 6th inning, top of their order, Lino to Shields. 0 for 2. He struck out, grounded out. We noticed early on, Pete, that Terry Tate was very consistent calling inside corner pitches tonight.
Well, that's where he lines up, over the inside corner.
DeShields lines one himself to right. Batista over quickly to cut it off, and he holds DeShields to a long single. Nice play.
And the first real good look we've had at Bautista's arm. He hasn't played much outfield for Atlanta, but the scouting report on him said he's got a very good throwing arm. We got a chance to look at it right there. He was playing over toward right center. He had to run a long way toward the line for that ball, spin, and then throw to second, and he got it there in very good shape.
And accurate, too. So the Dodgers have their leadoff man aboard for the first time tonight. Cedeno has struck out, flied out. And that fastball was by him. 0-1. DeShields with good speed at first base. 20 stolen bases on the year.
Second in the National League.
He has stolen 2 bases in a game 7 times this year.
Ryan McRae only one ahead of him with 21.
Outside, 1-1. He takes his lead off of first base, Pete. It looks like he's lined up quite a bit in back of the baseline, which is a little different. Normally you'll see a guy right in the baseline. Look how far back behind the line he is. Cedeno slices one foul. Count 1-2. Maybe his thinking is coming from that angle back to the base. He's coming to the back corner of the bag and a little bit longer reach for the tag.
There you can see it very good from that angle.
And it's a good lead. Low, 2-2. One of the things, though, and I remember when I first signed and was being schooled by the Dodgers, was that when you line up, when you take a lead behind the baseline like that, Pete, it makes your lead look bigger, which might draw more attention to you from the pitcher. If you're up even with the bag, just the mere angle of it makes it look like you're not as far off the base. Cedeno stays alive, still 2-2.
Well, that makes sense simply when you look at where Fred McGriff is. Fred McGriff is right out in front of the bag. If DeShields takes his lead directly towards second, he's going to look a lot closer to Fred McGriff than he is out where he is.
Yeah.
Even though the lead may be the same number of steps away.
Tommy's tough to steal on. He's got a good slide step, quick to the plate. But a huge lead, it looks like, for DeShields. That's foul. Still 2-2. Only 3 attempts against Glavine this year. They're 1 for 3 in stolen bases. On the other side of the coin, the Dodgers have had a horrible time throwing out runners. Steelers have been successful 86% of the time against Los Angeles. Cedeno having a good at bat here. Still 2-2. He had hit in 9 of his last 12. It's Joey Amalfitano going through the signs. And Reggie Smith, coaching at first, is ready to pinch hit. He's got his helmet on. Have to find out about that tomorrow. Just missed the inside corner. Full count now. We'll see if DeShields is running. Delano 20 for 26 in the stolen base department. He's not going. Pitch grounded to short. Backhanded stop by Belliard. His only play at second, and DeShields beats it. It'll be a base hit for Cedeno. Runners at first and second and nobody out. Nice glove work by Belliard, and that's the only chance he had, was to try and get DeShields at second.
Gives you an idea just how good DeShields' speed is. Even not running on the pitch, he was still able to beat this play. And Belliard made a good throw, and Lemke made a good catch, acting like a first baseman down there at second with a big stretch.
Yeah, and he says that's what was hurting his thumb more than anything, was just playing catch and fearing more than anything line drives hit at him. But he's having such a good night at the plate, doesn't matter tonight. 2 on, nobody out. In the heart of the order up now for the Dodgers. Mondesi has grounded out and popped up. He came in a hot hitter, 12 hits in his last 30 at bats. Fastball just misses away, 1-0. Tom fell behind him last time around, fell behind 2-0, but got him to foul off a couple of changeups before getting a broken bat fly ball to Grissom. Off-speed pitch misses. He's behind Mondesi again, 2-0. Great speed out there for Los Angeles with DeShields and Cedeno. A double most likely would score 2 runs. And you can see how far Cedeno can get off the bag at first with McGriff playing behind him. Fly ball again to center. Slicing a little bit more back to Bautista. DeShields tags.
throw comes into the relay man. Good throw by Bautista, cut off by Belliard, keeps the double play in order. 1 out, runners at the corners for Karros. Not only does he have a good arm, Pete, but he gets rid of it quick. Karros tonight is struck out and grounded out. The Dodgers only had 2 hits. Both of those belonged to Tom Prince before this inning started, but back-to-back hits to start the inning by DeShields and Cedeno. 3 runs, 7 hits for Atlanta. No runs, 4 hits for the Dodgers. Breaking ball missed outside. 1-0. Karros now 8 for 27 lifetime against Tom Glavine. Likes the ball away from him. Likes to hit it to right center. Called strike in the corner. Good fastball. 1-1. He got caught looking back in the second inning at a fastball that started inside and tailed back over the plate. Change up, fouled off out of play. Good pitch. 1-2. You had to admire Tom Glavine's grit over in Colorado, Pete, hanging in there after 7 in the first.
That's tough to do when you give up 7 runs in the first inning and you know you're not in for a good day, but to be able to recollect yourself and regroup yourself and go out there and give him 4 more innings before coming out of the ball game. Good effort by Glavine after that rocky start.
And amazingly, he got no decision. Tried to get Karros to chase one well out of the strike zone. It's 2-2.
Amazingly, except maybe in that ballpark. That may see more pitchers give up 7 runs in the first inning and wind up with no decision in any other ballpark in either league.
Yeah, in fact, that's the game the Braves actually came back to
They
lead.
had the lead, right?
12-11. But lost it 13-12. The 2-2 pitch to Karros. Off the end of the bat. Now hit pretty hard. Grissom on the runs. Not going to get it. In fact, that's off the bottom of the wall. 1 run is in. They're going to wave Cedeno. Relay comes into Lemke. Here comes the throw to the plate. Not in time. Boy, it looked like Karros had to reach for that ball. You fooled me. I thought he hit it off the end of the bat. Not so. 2-run double. A 3-2 lead now for Atlanta.
And these are the guys that have to come through if the Dodgers are going to score runs. They miss Mike Piazza's bat right now. So Karros, Mondesi, Blowers, these guys in the middle of the order have to deliver in games like this against good pitchers. Right off the bottom of the wall. We've seen a couple hit off the bottom of the wall in this game. RBIs number 34 and 35 for Karros.
Watch the pitch again. Down.
You mentioned he likes the ball away. And that one certainly was away and down and still had the power to drive it to the base of the wall in center field.
Well, he stayed right on it, too. Here's Blowers. He takes low. Ball 1. He is struck out and grounded out. For Eric Karros, his 8th double of the year. Three hits in the inning. 2 runs in. 2-0. Glavine falls behind Blowers. And Lopez on his way to the mound. No activity in the Braves bullpen. But Lopez perhaps out to ask Tom if he wants to change the signs in case the Dodgers are relaying anything in from second. Mike Blowers working on a modest 6-game hitting streak. Something else to consider here also, Pete, would be the fact that first base is open. And Billy Ashley on deck. Ashley has some power, but he does have some holes in his swing, too. Swing and a miss. And right after. 2-1.
Dodgers expecting some power to Flowers this year. He's only hit 4 homers. He had a string of 94 straight at bats without a home run earlier in the year, but that's not unusual for him early in the year. He's normally a hot second half hitter.
46 strikeouts, 47 now in 210 at bats. The 2-1 pitch hit hard to left field. They're going to try to score Karros to tie the game. Klesko up with it, but realized he was not going to have a play and just relayed the ball into Chipper Jones, and the Dodgers have struck for 3 here to tie it in the 6th. An RBI for Blowers gives him 26 on the year.
Lopez set up outside, pitch right where Lopez wanted it, maybe a little more of the plate than Javi wanted. And Blowers able to get around and pull it into left field. 26th RBI. We're tied at 3. Leo Mazzoni out to the mound now for Atlanta.
You could tell after Javi got set, Pete, that then he had to kind of shift his weight over his left foot. You could tell that the
just a little too much at the plate.
Path of that pitch was going inside. Watch Javi move out and then come back.
Have to lean back in, and that was just too much of the plate.
And it found the hole, and that gets Ashley to the plate. Runner at first. Still only 1 out. The Dodgers have tied it here. 4 hits in the inning. Ashley with a big swing, but off the end of the bat. He has walked and struck out. His average now at 213. He has a big, long swing. Very powerful. Hits that one a mile high, but popped it up out behind second. Belliard calls for it and has it 2 down. Sometimes, Pete, when you hit a lot of home runs and have the kind of success Ashley had in the minor leagues, it's tough to change or make adjustments when you get to the big leagues because you've been so successful other places. But Ashley's going to have to make a few adjustments.
And haven't you found with the people that try to pull most everything and have kind of an uppercut in their swing, you give them high fastballs, the result almost always is that, a pop-up. It's hard for them to hit a ball like that squarely with that uppercut swing.
Just don't make a mistake out over the plate.
No.
Tom Prince has been a tough out. He's 2 for 2 tonight. He had the first 2 hits of the ball game for the Dodgers before this inning. Glavine misses well off the plate, 1-0, and the bullpen gets busy again for the Dodgers. Mark Guthrie beginning to loosen up as the pitcher's spot is only 2 places away. Down low, 2-0. Blowers at first base has not attempted a stolen base this year. There's a strike. 2-1 now to Tom Prince. Mike Piazza still nursing a sore knee. That's why he's getting another day off today. The Dodgers had an off day on Wednesday and flew in last night.
Managers like to do that with an off day. Give the guy that's got a little banged up another day off. Give him 2 days off in a row. You know, he only misses 1 game. And that's the difference in Glavine's inning here in the 6th. Joey's been behind everybody.
Yeah.
Was not behind any hitters hardly at all in the first 5 innings. Been behind almost every hitter in this 6th inning.
How many pitches had he thrown through 5 feet?
73.
He's thrown a bunch this inning. He's gone deep in the count on everybody.
He's thrown 100 pitches on the night now.
Fouled off by Prince. Count full now, 3-2, and Blowers will be running with 2 out. Fred will back up and play behind the Dodger third baseman. And the payoff pitch. There goes the runner, and it's foul behind the Braves dugout. Count stays 3-2. Believe it or not, what is today, June 13th? Against the Western Division, their own division, the Dodgers have played a total of 4 games. There goes the runner again, popped up by Prince. McGriff in his tracks
makes the catch, and the inning comes to an end, but not before. The Dodgers have a good inning. 3 runs, 4 hits, no errors, 1 left. We go to the bottom half of the 6th inning, all tied at 3. About 2 o'clock, destroyed a tent, hospitality type tent set up outside the ballpark for the Olympic trials that will be conducted across the street. A couple of people were injured, but hopefully no one seriously, and heavy rain at the ballpark. But so far so good tonight on the ball game. A tie game. We go to the bottom of the 6th. McGriff, Klesko, and Lopez due up. Fred tonight 0 for 2. He's flying to left, grounded to first. Ishmael Valdez back out there.
Seems like the Dodgers are involved in a game like this every night.
A lot of close ones.
They have played 25 games decided by 1 run this year. They're 13-12 in those games.
And 10 more decided by 2 runs. They're 6-4 in those. But if you're getting good pitching to hold other ball clubs down and you're not scoring many, you're going to be involved in a few of those. Fastball outside, 1-1. Valdez calls time, and he may have a problem. He's calling for Charlie Strasser, the trainer. He looked in the dugout, and he's looking at his finger almost like he might have a blister on his pitching hand. He's looking at his fingertip, and Charlie Strasser quickly out there to take a look at it. Boy, that can be painful too.
That looks painful.
It can be very tender right out on the fingertip where the ball comes off your release point. Sometimes your fingernail digs into that part of the skin. Tommy Lasorda out to have a look for himself.
You can see that blister. It's on the second finger of his pitching hand.
And you know what Valdez is thinking too. His team has come back to tie the game up. He wants to stay out there and hope they can get him a lead. The difficult part is knowing when to say you had enough, because that can develop into a real bad blood blister that could actually knock you out for a start.
Oh, remember Steve Avery's first couple of years here in Atlanta. He had stretches where almost every start it seemed the blister would develop and cause him some problems.
Well, after a meeting with all the brass out on the mound, Valdez is going to try it again. 1-1 to McGriff. Good curve. A ball and 2 strikes. I wonder what Charlie Strasser rubbed on his pitching hand before he left. Some scores around baseball. Barry Bonds got back in the home run column today as the Giants won. Another curveball raked to right field. Mondesi playing deep, goes back and makes a nice play. Fred was right on that hook, but a line drive out, 1 away.
That very consistent swing we have seen from Fred McGriff all year. Didn't get quite enough lift on that ball, though.
Ryan Klesko snapped out of a little spell he was in. 0 for his last 14 before a single in the 4th. Another good curve. That's 3 in a row. Maybe it's a little easier on him to throw breaking stuff than it is fastballs. And that spins Ryan around just in case he was looking for one. Curveball misses, 2-1. Todd Hundley stays hot. He hit another home run tonight. He and Jeff Kent went back-to-back for the Mets.
That's a new career high for Hundley, 17 homers. And it's only June 13th.
3-1 to Klesko. Valdez has walked 1, and he has fanned only 1.
Fastball on the outside corner, lifted down the left field line. Long run for Ashley. In foul territory. Nice play.
And he had to come a long way for that ball. He was camped way over in left center field against Klesko. And the only reason he was able to make that catch was because the ball was hit so high. Klesko rarely hits one down the left field corner.
Well, that was a good pitch, too. Prince was set up on the outside part of the plate and was delivered right to the target. Two outs, and that gets Lopez up there. He was aboard on an error. Tough call on him in the second inning. Could have been a base hit. He's also grounded out. He's 0 for 2. Hit hard. Blowers rather can't come up with that one. Oh, he wasn't going to take any chances that time. He got it by him for the base hit.
Blowers had him played just about right. He was well off the line at third base, but not quite quick enough to connect with that ball. Ball was hit hard.
Danny Batista hit one almost in the same spot his last time up. He's 1 for 2 tonight. A 3-3 tie in the bottom of the 6th. One and 0. Valdez's spot in the batting order due up second in the 7th for the Dodgers, and if he is having some problems with that, the fingers on his pitching hand, then he might be pinch hit for more activity in their bullpen. Antonio Osuna getting loose. And McMichael down in the Braves bullpen. 1-1 to Batista. Now back our way and above us, a ball and 2 strikes.
Even if Glavine doesn't get the hit in this inning, he may come out of the game. 105 pitches through 6 innings. Very, very late arrival by the Braves last night. We'll see if he stays in there or not.
A little bit high, 2-2. Sometimes, Pete, when you have those types of returns from the road trip, you're dog tired, number one. You don't get to take batting practice to kind of get you going. You get a run early and then you kind of drop.
Flatten out.
Yeah, you really flatten out. Bautista fouls one back right above us again. Still 2-2. Like he lost his bat. Yeah, he did on that swing.
Well, Bobby Cox made the statement before the game tonight that he was not worried about tonight's game. He said in his experience as a manager, he's always found that tired ball clubs for some reason don't play too badly the night that they get back from a late flight. Like he's worried about tomorrow night.
Yeah.
He said it seems to catch up with you 2 days later.
Sometimes adrenaline will carry you through that first one. 2-2 pitch, another curveball, but he misses. Full count, and Lopez will get a head start from first. Dodgers, as I mentioned, were off Wednesday, and they got into town about 6:30. They were looking forward to watching the Braves on cable on TBS at their hotel room, but weather had knocked out the cable in their hotel. There goes Lopez. Hit right back at Valdez. How did he catch that ball? That one just found his glove, and somehow the inning comes to an end. Watch it again. We'll go away here after 6. Boy, a rocket. Still tied at 3. Yes, the Dodger ball game here tomorrow night beginning at 7:35. Saturday's an afternoon tilt, but Sunday back with you at 1:05, and that Sunday afternoon start, Jason Schmidt against Tom Candiotti. Tomorrow night, John Smoltz goes after his 13th win. Padres come to town afterwards. We go to the 7th, and here's Pete.
Okay, Joe. Juan Castro will lead off. He is 0 for 2. Hit into a forced play and struck out. Tom Glavine is still out there, and his first pitch over for a called strike, 0-1. Lifted into shallow left center field. That's going to drop in for a base hit. Castro aboard with a leadoff single. And that gets the Braves bullpen up again. Brad Plants begins to throw.
Valdez is going to hit for himself. Maybe to try to move him into scoring position and save a pinch hitter. They still have Osuna up in the bullpen.
Definitely a bunt situation. Let's see what kind of success Valdez has had here. Well, he leads the team with 6 sacrifice hits. So even though he hasn't hit very well this year, he has delivered in this situation. 7 hits now for the Dodgers with Castro at first, nobody out. Ball 1 the count on Valdez.
Dodgers hadn't had their leadoff man on in any of the first 5 innings. They get the Shields on to start the 6th and wind up scoring 3 runs. And now Castro does it for him again.
He takes a strike. 1 ball, 1 strike. Nobody out. Castro at first. We're tied at 3 in the top half of the 7th.
I mentioned the Dodgers only played 4 games against the Western Division. They're 1-1 against the Rockies, 1-1 against the Giants. Still haven't played the Padres.
Just like the Braves still haven't played Montreal.
Right.
Gets the bunt down. That should get the job done. Glavine has a little trouble picking it up, and now on the Lemke for the out. Down to second goes Castro.
I think he was thinking about second base. I think he felt like if he picked it up barehanded, he would have had a shot at Castro at second because it was bunted rather hard. That's why he wasn't able to handle it barehanded. Take another look. See if he was setting himself up to throw to second instead. The bobble, however, kept that from happening.
And with a runner at second and 1 down, back now to the top of the order. Joey Amalfitano over to have a quick conversation with Juan Castro, his runner at second base, as DeShields steps in. DeShields is struck out, grounded out to second, and had a base hit in the 6th inning. Came around to score the first Dodger run. A ball and no strikes on DeShields.
I mentioned Mike Blowers has 47 strikeouts. Raul Mondesi has 46. But believe it or not, DeShields leads their team in strikeouts.
1 ball, 1 strike, and that has always been one of the raps against him. He's got leadoff type speed. Can steal a base on you, but you don't want your leadoff hitter to strike out as often as he does.
54 times.
Castro, the runner at second, 1 out. Foul back 1 and 2.
Good swing. The one thing that they were talking about Brett Butler missing from their lineup. Another thing about difficulty in scoring runs is one thing that would help you is if a guy's getting on base consistently in the leadoff spot. Butler certainly did that, but DeShields on base percentage only .289, and he's got to do a better job of that if they're going to improve offensively.
Now the 1-2 on the way. Ground ball left side. Belliard gets to it, but he's going to have no chance to get to Shields at first. The runner holds at second. It'll be an infield hit for Delino to Shields. Runners now first and second with 1 out.
And see, that's the kind of at bat you'd like to see him take more often if you're the Dodgers. Just put the ball in play. There are a lot of times where you just hit it to the right spot. With his speed, he's going to beat it out. Didn't overswing. He just made contact. Belliard did the right thing by not making a throw.
Now Roger Cedeno, who was struck out flying to right and had an infield single. His last at bat with Tom Glavine, quite a battle as he kept fouling off 3-2 pitches before getting the infield hit. 1 out, runners first and second. 8 hits now for the Dodgers. Strike in the outside corner, 0-1.
You know, maybe Bobby's going the extra mile with Tom tonight, pitch count wise, because of what happened in Colorado. And after the Dodgers tied it, he wanted to give Tom a chance to regain the lead, be the
Pitcher of record on the winning side, if possible.
Here's the 0-1. Deep to left field. Ryan Klesko back to the warning track. This ball is gone. 3-run homer. The first home run of the year for Roger Cedeno. And the Dodgers lead it by a score of 6-3. His first home run in 139 at-bats.
You know what? He had a good at-bat last inning. He fouled off a lot of pitches before he finally singled. Not only the first one this year, Pete, first one of his career. But he saw a lot of pitches his last time up, and that may have helped him here. He got a breaking ball coming right into him, and he golfed it out.
This will be the end of the night for Tom Glavine, who can't believe it, that he gave up a 3-run shot to Roger Cedeno and relinquishes the lead here. It's 6-3 now. The Los Angeles Dodgers have taken the lead, and Brad Clontz will come on to replace Tom Glavine out of the Braves bullpen. Young with a 2-hit shutout through 5, gave up 3 runs in the 6th and 3 more here in the 7th on one swing of Roger Cedeno's bat. And the Dodgers now have a 6-3 lead. Brad Clontz taking over for Glavine, who worked 6 1/3, 9 hits, 6 runs, all earned, 1 walk, 6 strikeouts. Clontz, who leads the National League in appearances, making his 34th trip out of the bullpen. You see the numbers on Brad. The league hitting .238 against him. Raul Mondesi will hit here. He is 0 for 3. Roger Cedeno's first major league home run.
Yeah, just like Mondesi is.
As if to say it won't be my last either.
It's some big cuts before finally connecting.
Mondesi is grounded to second and flied out twice. And he takes a strike 0-1.
You know, Pete, sometimes Tom Glavine says he wanted to throw a few more breaking balls in ball games, curve balls especially. He was working on it a little bit. If that was a curve as opposed to a slider, it was a hanger. And that's why Cedeno was able to connect.
And you saw the Dodgers recover that baseball for him. That'll go on his trophy case. He is not known for his power. In 5 years in the minor leagues, he only had 12 home runs. One ball, 1 strike on Mondesi. Takes a strike, 1 and 2. Still only 1 out in the inning. Two and 2. The count now on Mondesi with Eric Karros waiting on deck. Here's the 2-2 on the way, and that's popped back out of play. It remains 2 balls, 2 strikes on the Dodger right fielder, Rookie of the Year in the National League in 1994.
Dodgers have been a pretty good come-from-behind team, Pete. They won a game like that on Sunday. It was their 16th come-from-behind win, and their 34 wins. And they've done that tonight.
Again, the 2-2. Line toward left. Klesko is going to have to wait for it and play it on a hop. Base hit for Mondesi, his first hit of the night. And that's the 4th hit of the inning for the Dodgers, and their 10th hit of the game. They only had 2 hits after 5 innings. They have 10 now. We're in the 7th. And the batter will be Eric Karros, who was struck out, grounded out to short, and doubled into. Pedro Borbon now up in the Braves bullpen.
Mondesi a threat to run. The Dodgers would like to add to their lead, so it's a smart move there by Brad Clontz to keep him close. Mondesi has 5 stolen bases.
Brad Clons would like to get a double play out of Karros. He leads their team, the Dodgers, grounding into double plays 11 times this year. At the knees for a called strike, 0-1. He's another of a quartet of rookies of the year on this Dodger team. He was National League Rookie of the Year in 1992. Like Piazza in 93, Mondesi in 94, Hideo Nomo last year. Runner going, the pitch low and outside, the throw high and outside. And in safely with a stolen base, Raul Mondesi. And you can see Javi Lopez upset with himself on that throw.
Yeah, it looked like he got a good pitch to throw on, too. Mondesi got a good jump. But I think with a good throw, Javi gets him. Good quick delivery by Clons, too. But it tailed up the line, and Mondesi in there.
Stolen base number 6 of the year for Mondesi. He's at second now with a count of 1 ball, 1 strike on Karros.
Pete, there'd been some talk about Mike Piazza, maybe changing positions to save him some wear and tear on his knees to prolong his career. Found out something about him today that I didn't know.
First, the 1-1 to Eric Karros. Down and away, 2-1.
That the most logical place for him to move might be first base. And I found out that when he first started playing, when the Dodgers drafted him, was first base. They converted him to catcher. And Eric Karros at UCLA played third base.
Two and one, the count on Karros. 1 out, runner at second now. Dodgers up by 3. Here's the 2-1 delivery, swing and a miss, 2-2. Well, if they move Mike Piazza to first base to prolong his career, you don't usually want to get caught up moving 2 or 3 people around on your ball club. My guess then would be they would try to shop Eric Karros around.
Well, and Eric's going to be, he's not going to be a free agent. His contract is up. Go to arbitration next year, and I believe likewise Mike Piazza. But if a new agreement is reached, a new labor agreement that might change the free agency rules, who knows?
Yeah, if they can become free agents after 4 years, they would both be eligible next year. 2-2 on Eric Karros. Struck him out. Clons records his first strikeout. Out number 2 here in the top half of the 7th. And that'll bring up Mike Flowers, who was struck out, grounded out, and single, driving in a run back in that 6th inning.
Pete, I wonder if Brad Clons' ability to work in so many ball games is the result of his delivery. I wonder if it's because of there's less stress on his shoulder, less wear and tear.
Well, anybody who's pitched will tell you that's a much more natural way of throwing a ball, sidearm. And if you think of some of the sidearmers that have been around pitching out of the bullpen, guys like Dan Quisenberry and Gene Garber and Kent DeColvey, they were all able to work in a lot of games. And the thing that intrigued me about Clons was last year when he told us that he never used to throw that way except experimentally until he got to college. And then his college coach told him, hey, you're getting people out like that. Why not try it all the time?
Stick with what works.
He said, I normally wouldn't throw sidearm until I had an 11-2 lead or something like that, just to tinker with it, just to give hitters a different look. But his stuff was better, so he went to it full time. Oh, and 1 the count on Mike Flowers. Osuna continues to throw in the Dodger bullpen. Looks like he may be coming on in the bottom of the 7th. Now that the Dodgers have gotten the lead for Valdez. rolled toward short. Belliard on to first in time, and Quantz comes in and restores order, but not until the Los Angeles Dodgers take a 3-run lead and a 3-run homer by Roger Cedeno, his first major league home run. We go to the bottom half of the 7th inning. Dodgers up by 3. Throws hard. They get him in the mid to upper 90s. It is his 30th appearance. The league's only hitting 189 against him, averaging better than a strikeout per inning.
Well, their staff has the best ERA in the major leagues, and their bullpen has done a good job too, collectively at 2.42.
Braves are going to go to their bench to try to get some offense going here in the bottom half of the 7th. Mike Mordecai will lead things off. Pinch hitting for Rafael Belliard. Mordecai at 244. No homers, 1 RBI. He's 3 out of 9 as a pinch hitter and a good fastball hitter. Tyler Houston has moved on deck. Little number towards second. DeShields has it. 1 pitch, 1 out here in the bottom of the 7th.
That'll give you an idea about his fastball. How many times have you seen Mike Mordecai jammed like that?
Now Tyler Houston will come on to bat for Brad Klontz. Houston at 250 with a homer and 8 RBIs. He's 4 to 18 in this role as a pinch hitter.
And better turn it up a notch, Tyler.
Ball 1 to Houston. 6 runs, 10 hits for the Dodgers. 3 runs, 8 hits for Atlanta. Bottom half of inning 7, 1 man out. Fouled off, 1-1.
Dodgers have had a pretty good connection on pitchers out of Mexico, beginning with Fernando Valenzuela. There have been others, but you've seen 2 tonight already in Valdez and now Osuna, who's from Sinaloa and pitched for Hermosillo in the Mexican Winter League.
Here's the 1-1 now to Houston. Fouled off again, 1-2.
He's also got a pretty good split finger pitch or forkball that it's hard to lay off of when he's on because it's hard, like his fastball.
Now the 1-2. There it was. Tyler Houston down on strikes, out number 2 here in the bottom half of the 7th inning.
When you're trying to gear up for that fastball, not a whole lot different than the way Mark Wohlers works on hitters, setting them up for split finger pitch that works like a changeup. And you can see how Tyler was fooled. Pitched well off the plate, but he had already committed looking for the fastball.
2 gone. Back to the top of the order now. Marquise Grissom, who has a single, a ground out, and a walk tonight. Ball 1 to count on Grissom. Greg McMichael will be the next Atlanta pitcher. He's working in the Braves bullpen. Into foul territory goes Eric Karros over near the Atlanta dugout. Looks like he's going to have room. He does, and that's the first 1-2-3 inning for the Dodgers. 3 hitters, 3 outs. There were a couple of double plays involved, but Osuna gets him in order. We go to the 8th inning. 6-3 Dodgers.
Barry had a grand slam and losing cause. Gary Sheffield's hit his 19th homer for Florida. San Diego leading Chicago now. Tony Gwynn is homered there. Huntley and Kent had back-to-back homers for New York. And Philadelphia at Colorado. Colorado now leading 2-0 in the American League. Texas playing at Boston. Texas had to put Will Clark on the DL today. Cleveland shutting out New York. Milwaukee got 6 in the 4th. Kansas City all over Baltimore.
And as we go to the 8th inning, a couple of changes for Atlanta. Mike Mordecai stays in the game at shortstop. The new pitcher is Greg McMichael, making his 31st appearance. McMichael 3-1 with a save, 379 earned run average, and Todd Hollinsworth up to pinch hit for Billy Ashley as the Dodgers come to bat here in the 8th inning. 0-1 the count on Hollinsworth. 271 in the year for Hollinsworth, 3 homers, 18 RBIs. He is 5 for 8 as a pinch hitter.
Good looking hitter. Good hands.
Outside corner 0-2.
Some of his minor league numbers overshadowed by Billy Ashley, but a good outfielder, good looking young hitter.
He really opened some eyes in the Dodger camp this spring, and a very good spring training for him. Here's the 0-2. Lopez can't come up with it. He'll have to throw him out, and does. Strikeout from McMichael, 1 down.
I think if I'm Todd Hollinsworth there, I got to run down the line and kick that ball just a little bit, just in case the umpires might not catch it. I've already struck out, so what's the difference?
1 gone now. Tom Prince, who has singled, doubled, and popped to first. That's the way a catcher should look at the stage of a game on a warm night. Dirty uniform.
Yeah, it looks like the legs on those pants have been stretched out a little bit from those shin guards that draped down over the tops of his shoes.
Yeah, you get a night like this when it's warm, a little bit on the muggy side. I mean, you're supposed to look like you played. No doubt about the fact that Prince played in this game tonight when he gets in that locker room.
Yeah, and he's not the catcher formerly known as Prince.
2-0 the count on Prince.
He was an Albuquerque Duke.
Yes, he was. And a former teammate of Jeff King over at Pittsburgh. 2-1 the count on Tom Prince. It's even 2-2.
Good off-speed stuff so far from McMichael. He fooled Hollinsworth, and he's had Prince out on his front foot.
He's down on strike. Second strikeout in a row for Greg McMichael. 2 gone here in the top half of the 8th inning. And that'll bring up Juan Castro.
Mac's fastball is very effective when he's able to get ahead in the count. And it's good enough to keep you honest. You start looking for the other stuff, he can get it by you.
Castro 1 for 3. He got that 7th inning rally going with a leadoff single. Outside corner 0-1. Dodgers leading at 6-3 here in the top of the 8th. 1 ball, 1 strike. Dave Hansen has moved on deck. He would pinch hit for Osuna if Castro keeps the inning going. In the air to right center. Looks like Marquise Grissom had him played in the right spot. And it's a 1-2-3 inning for Greg McMichael. Dodgers go in order. We go to the bottom half of the 8th inning with the Dodgers still leading it 6-3. But we just now have a pitcher out on the mound for the Los Angeles Dodgers. A little confusion out there. Scott Radinsky was up throwing in the Dodger bullpen. When they didn't get to the pitcher spot in the batting order to have a pinch hitter employed, he went and sat back down in the bullpen. Dodgers took the field. Nobody took the mound. Tom Prince came out behind home plate, kept motioning down to the bullpen to get the pitcher into the game. They finally had to call down there.
And Radinsky was sitting on the bullpen bench when the phone rang because they didn't know who they wanted in the game. Hollinsworth, Todd Hollinsworth, by the way, stays in the game to play left field. Here's another hard thrower, though, Scott Radinsky, and he can certainly relate to what Brett Butler's going through right now. He battled Hodgkin's disease a couple of years ago while a member of the Chicago White Sox, and good to see him pitching again.
To the left of Brett Butler, by the way, that's Dr. Bob Gatledge, who performed the surgery. We've known Dr. Gatledge a long time. He was a former neighbor of Phil Niekro when Phil was playing with the Braves. Good to see Brett Butler out here, and of course everybody pulling for Brett. Everybody in baseball, everybody not in baseball. And here's Mark Lemke leading off the bottom half of the 8th inning and popping one out of play. Mark back in action tonight after a layoff since May 27th, and look what he's done: a single, a home run, a ground out, and an RBI. Hitting right at 300 now for the year.
And picked up right where he left off when he went on the DL.
One ball, one strike. Two and one the count on Mark Lemke. Lemke, Jones, and McGriff due up. Terrell Wade up now in the Atlanta bullpen. We're in the bottom of the 8th inning. Braves had a 3-0 lead in this game. Dodgers tied it with 3 in the 6th. Took the lead on Cedeno's 3-run homer in the 7th. 3-1 the count.
Walks used to work into the game of Scott Radinsky, but not this year. 5 walks in 17 innings. Very tough on left-handed hitters, but has fallen behind 3-1 here.
And a leadoff walk to Mark Lemke.
You have to wonder, Pete, you know, about coming into this ball game mentally. He was down there not ready to come in the ball game, and was a little disgusted when he was told they want you. He was a little, not reluctant, but took him a minute to come out of the bullpen and get to the mound. And he's going to have to at least mentally get back into it.
And they're going to get another left-hander up, which is interesting. Mark Guthrie. Chipper Jones will be the batter. Then you've got 2 more left-hand hitters. Fred McGriff and Ryan Klesko behind him. Dave Wallace coming out to the mound. You could tell that Radinsky was upset out there.
And he's still a little perturbed
He's still perturbed about the whole situation. He had sat down out in the bullpen, wasn't aware that he was being brought into the game, and he walks the leadoff hitter here. And my guess is, with Chipper Jones hitting, if he continues to be unable to throw strikes with the other 2 lefties, McGriff and Klesko, coming up behind him, you may see Mark Guthrie come into the game.
Well, he told Dave Wallace, you could read his lips, I'm all right, but he, you know, obviously mentally was not ready to work to Mark Lemke. And maybe he's gotten his act back together now. He's going to have to regroup. But you can understand why he sat down.
Ball 1 high and away to Chipper Jones. Lemke not getting a very big lead over there. And it goes to 2-0 on Chipper. That's the last thing in the world that Tommy Lasorda wants to see out of his bullpen, with a 3-run lead and starting to walk people and set the table for guys like McGriff and Klesko.
Not this spot in the order.
2-0 pitch. There's a strike, 2-1.
He throws across his body pretty severely, and it's very important for him to get into a bit of a rhythm and to get his release point working because of that. His mechanics not perfect. Maybe that's why he was eyeing away to the right-handed hitters.
Another strike, 2 and 2 to Chipper Jones. Chipper 1 for 3 and an RBI single in the 1st inning. Now the 2-2 struck him out.
That's
After
a recovery.
falling behind 2-0, he fired 3 fastballs right by Chipper Jones, 1 down.
Chipper really got jammed on this last one, too. They moved the target inside. You can see Chipper trying to pull his hands in here to get the head of the bat through. But that time the ball's by him.
Now Fred McGriff, who is 0 for 3 tonight. He has fly to left, grounded out to first, and flying to right. 0 for his last 9, so he's due. Lemke at first now with 1 out. On the ground, right side. Nice play by DeShields to take the base hit away from McGriff. Down to second goes Lemke, but now there are 2 outs.
Big play right there for Delino, DeShields, and the Dodgers. They are 3rd in the National League defensively, having committed 41 errors. Their infield defense has been shored up quite a bit on the left side when they got Gagne and Blowers.
Delino DeShields has always had good range and makes a good play there to save a hit.
But think about that statement you just made, Joe, about the Dodgers being third in the league defensively. How long has it been since they've been ranked that high with their defense? It's a club that had some defensive problems, especially in their infield, for several years. Here's Klesko. Upstairs to Ryan, ball one. Joey Amalfitano trying to get the attention of right fielder Raul Mondesi. Now he does. Mondesi moves over more toward right center.
They don't expect Klesko to pull Radinsky.
Two and 0. 2 men out, runner at second. Braves trailing by 3 here in the bottom of the 8th.
Ryan more than holding his own against lefties. His average was a little bit higher against left-handed pitching earlier. Still has 2 long ones against him.
Here's the 2-0 pitch. Up the middle to Shields. Backhands this one. 2 nice plays by Delino DeShields. And the Dodgers get the Braves out here in the bottom half of the 8th inning. We go to the 9th. Still 6-3 Los Angeles. By 3 as the Braves kick off this 2-week homestand. Terrell Wade becomes the 4th pitcher of the night for Atlanta. McMichael worked a scoreless 8th inning, recording 2 strikeouts. Wade making his 19th appearance. I think of all the players on the Braves roster this year, Joe, Terrell's been the biggest surprise because this is a role he had never tried in the minor leagues, pitching out of the bullpen. He's been very, very successful. Good earned run average, 1.50.
I think he gives him some depth in the starting rotation because he has been a starter. If anything were to happen and they needed somebody to plug in the rotation, I think he'd be a likely candidate. I like the way he's just handled himself, period, Pete. I mean, his poise has been outstanding. He hasn't been overwhelmed by his surroundings, and he's been very aggressive.
So Wade set to go to work on the Dodgers here in the 9th inning. And they will lead it off with Mike Bush, who will come on to pinch hit for Scott Radinsky.
This was an interesting call-up by the Dodgers.
Bush 222 with a homer and 5 RBIs. He's the player that caused all the commotion last year when he was brought up, because he had attended the replacement camp in spring training in 1994, and some of the members of the Dodgers were not too thrilled about his recall.
And Brett Butler was the most vocal.
1 ball, no strikes. At the knees, 1-1.
This guy's had some great years at Albuquerque the last couple of years. 93 at 22 homers, 94 27 homers.
Behind in the count here, 1 ball and 2 strikes.
.65 220.
And the 1-2 on the way, struck him out. Good fastball, push out of there on strikes. 1 gone, top of the 9th, back to the top of the order now. And Delino DeShields due up in the bottom half of the 9th for the Braves. Javi Lopez, Danny Bautista, and Mike Mordecai.
Good fastball upstairs. Got it by him.
DeShields tonight is 2 for 4. He has scored 2 runs, pair of singles. Takes ball 1 from Wade. John Smoltz against Pedro Astacio tomorrow night. That'll be an interesting matchup because Smoltz will be going for his 13th straight win against a guy who is 0-7 lifetime against Atlanta. Lemke on to first in plenty of time. 2 quick outs here in the top half of the 9th. And now Roger Cedeno, who's been the hero right now. Todd Worrell getting ready to come in and pitch the bottom half of the 9th inning. Cedeno's 3-run homer in the 7th inning, the difference in this game.
Funny circumstances. You know, he never really worked on a home run trot before, but watch what happens after he rounds first. You got a rookie umpire at first, Bruce Drakeford, who gets in his way and ruins his trot.
He was just about to get into that home run trot.
Just begun to work on it. Ran into traffic.
In a right center field. Long run for Marquise Grissom. Gets there. Makes the catch. A 1-2 trading for Terrell Wade. And the Braves have their final chance now as we go to the bottom half of the ninth. It'll be Todd Worrell coming in to try to save it for Ishmael Valdez. For the ninth inning, Todd Worrell, the National League leader in saves with 17. We'll try to record number 18 here. As he tries to save it for Valdez, you see the numbers on Worrell. The rest of the numbers on Worrell. And it'll be Javi Lopez, Danny Bautista, and Mike Mordecai due up. And only pitcher with great control this year. 4 walks, 30 strikeouts.
That's what I was just going to say, Pete. If he's coming in throwing strikes like that, no wonder he's got 17 saves. He's only had 3 blown save opportunities. He last worked 4 days ago against the Reds and got a save. 1 inning, gave up 1 hit.
Lopez tonight 1 for 3. He's reached on an error. Hit into an odd double play that went short to first to third when Klesko tried to go all the way around from first to third, and then he singled his last time up. 1 ball, no strikes. Sharply hit toward short. Nice pickup by Castro. High throw. Karros handles it, comes back down the bag, 1 down.
Good footwork by Eric Karros. Second time tonight that Castro's almost thrown one over his head. Does a nice job of setting himself. But fortunately for the Dodgers, Karros' foot came right back down on the bag.
Now Danny Bautista getting his first start for the Braves tonight. He's 1 for 3 at a single back in the 5th inning. Hit the ball hard in the 6th inning too. A line drive that was snared by the pitcher Valdez for the 3rd out. Oh, and 1.
Worrell has had to battle through so many arm problems. The Dodgers glad to finally have him back to his old self.
Castro another chance. Good throw this time. 2 down. Dodgers getting some good defensive play from their middle infielders tonight. The Shields made 2 nice plays in the last inning. Another good play there by Castro.
He's another good-looking young player out of Mexico.
Now Mike Mordecai, the last hope for Atlanta. He's 0 for 1 since checking into the game. Grounded out to second in the 7th. One ball, no strikes. Braves hitting their first little stretch this year where they're having difficulty winning. This would be 5 losses in 7 games for Atlanta.
ERA, of course, really annihilated by the Colorado Rockies. Last 8 games, the Braves have gone 3-5, and their ERA 7.88. And tonight, Tom Glavine gave up 6 runs.
Here's the 1-1. Breaking ball missed. 2-1.
A lot of runners left on base too, so the offense could pick that up a little bit and give the pitchers a little more room to breathe.
2-1 pitch on the way. Popped up foul. Prince gives it a look, but it's going to be back into the seats. And the count even 2-2. Well, everything was going so well for the Atlanta Ball Club for such a long stretch of time. Great starting pitching, great relief pitching, scoring 6, 7, 8 runs every night. You knew that couldn't continue forever. And this little kind of a stretch was due to hit this ball club at some point. But you don't want it to last too much longer, not during a nice long home stretch like this.
No, and I think maybe getting Mark Lemke back will go a long way toward helping offensively.
Here's the 2-2. Down the left field line. That's a fair ball for Mordecai. He rounds first, heading for second as Hollinsworth comes up with the ball. And it's a stand-up double for Mike Mordecai. And now Dwight Smith will come on to pinch hit for Terrell Wade.
Braves just need to get one more base runner out there to bring the tying run to the plate. Off-speed pitch, a hanger by Worrell, and Mordecai able to adjust thanks to the pitch staying up high, and he one-handed it down the line.
Second double of the year for Mordecai. Now Dwight Smith hitting .216, a homer, 8 RBIs, 6 for 23 as a pinch hitter. Ground ball to short again. Castro makes all 3 plays here in the 9th inning, and the Dodgers have drawn first blood in this 4-game series as they rally from behind to beat the Braves by a final score of 6-3.
And you're looking at our AutoZone player of the game. That's Roger Cedeno, the center fielder for the Dodgers. His home run, his first major league home run, came in the 7th inning. That was the difference. He hit it off of Tom Glavine. A 3-run shot to left. Glavine tried to get a breaking ball down and in, but it stayed up. Cedeno turned on it, just clearing the left field wall, and that was the difference in the ball game. The Dodgers bullpen made that stand up. Final score 6-3. Pete and I'll be back to wrap things up right after this. The Dodgers come from behind to win it 6-3. 6 runs, 10 hits, an error, and 6 men left on base. The Braves strand 7. Valdez matches Tom Glavine record-wise with the win as he hung in there despite a blister on his pitching finger. Tom Glavine's ERA has bumped up to 3.08 in his last 2 starts. Dodgers, as you can see, have been a good come-from-behind victory. A good come-from-behind team, I should say. 39,463 at the ballpark tonight. Game took 2 hours and 43 minutes.
And with Montreal idle tonight, the Braves lead in the National League East now stands at 4 games over the Expos. Tomorrow night, it'll be John Smoltz going for his 13th straight win, trying to tie an Atlanta record. He'll be facing Pedro Astacio. We'll have it for you here at 7:35. Coming up at 10:35 tonight, Van Wieren from Atlanta Fulton County Stadium, where the Dodgers have beaten the Braves 6-3. Good night, everyone.